One moment can change a life forever. A traumatic event, a difficult battle, a painful chapter. The journey of actress Lisa Regina began with surviving violence. Through writing, she found healing. Through healing, she found purpose. Today, Heroic Episodes shines a light on those who rise, rebuild, and transform pain into strength. These are stories of courage, stories of resilience, stories of hope. Welcome to Heroic Episodes.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Heroic Episodes Live. I'm Lisa Regina, the founder of the non-profit A Right to Heal and the creator of Heroic Episodes. I hope you're not hearing an echo like I am. We meet here every Thursday with veterans, advocates, and artists, all who choose to heal, to create, and to inspire. And as a survivor, I know firsthand that storytelling can truly be healing. Not just for the person telling their story, but for anyone who may be listening. And I'm joined every week by my dear friend, renowned photographer, associate producer of Heroic Episodes, Barry Morgenstein.
Hey, Lisa. Good to be back.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Looking forward to this episode again.
Yes.
We always have the best guests.
We do. And I'm really honored tonight that we get a chance to sit down with Colonel Dale Kuehl, who served 30 years in the Army in some of the most hostile places in history. Combat in Panama, combat in the Gulf. In 2006, he took command of the 1st Battalion, 5th Cavalry, dropped in the most dangerous districts of Baghdad at the right at when the search began. What happened next in Amaraya became one of the turning points in the Iraq War. Colonel Kuehl didn't just lead troops through it. He helped rewrite the strategy on the ground, building trust, relationships, and hard-won peace that followed. He went on to train the next generation of officers in the art of strategy at the highest level. And in his second career now, he mentors leaders and gives back to the veteran community. Let's welcome Colonel Dale Kuehl. Hi, Dale.
Hey, Dale.
Hi, Lisa and Bear.
We're just
thanks
grateful
for
to
that
have
kind
you.
introduction.
Of course.
Thanks for joining us. It's an honor.
Yeah, and it's an honor to be here tonight.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for letting us call you Dale.
Yes.
I feel like I should say Colonel, right, Barry?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Yeah. I always feel awkward
No,
with that. Yeah.
Dale's fine.
Thank you, Dale.
Yeah.
You had shared some of your writings in the Small World Journal and Military Review. And we appreciate you sharing those writings, Barry and I through them. And of course, as civilians, we have a lot of questions for you. And we appreciate
a lot of admiration too.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Gratitude.
Yes, for sure.
You've done and continue to do what we as civilians of course can't. And I just wanted to start off with when you took command of the is it 15 Cav? Is that the
Yeah, we usually just call it 15 Cav.
15 Cav? I'm catching on to these military terms.
I know, yeah.
And Amaraya. But during that time, in one of the most volatile periods, Can you in I guess civilian terms help us to understand what your life was like on a daily basis? I mean, you're in these life or death situations, and it's really hard for civilians to grasp what that was like every day.
Sure. So I actually took command of the battalion probably, it was about a year before that, and we had to train up, and then we deployed to Iraq in October of 2006. And then we got into Baghdad towards the end of November. So they stage you outside of the country first in Kuwait, then we move up to Baghdad, and then we do a handover from the previous unit to us. So we work together for about a week to 10 days, and then we take over the area. So we took over the area it was around Thanksgiving of 2006. At that time, the overall strategy was turning the security over to the Iraqi security forces, the army, the police, and that was the going in plan. In the area that we were in, we quickly realized that was not going to happen. We had actually been briefed before we got into our area of operations that we were going to turn over the entire security to the Iraqis by that summer of 2007. When we got into our area, we walked into the middle of a civil war. What you had was two major factions that we were within Baghdad in general, and of course in Iraq. In Iraq, there's actually three factions if you include the Kurds. Those are the main ones. But in Baghdad, it was Sunni Islam and Shia Islam, different ethno-sectarian, different ways of saying it, but bottom line is they were fighting each other. In our area, it was primarily Sunni, but there was a lot of pressure being put on our area because there was an organization called Jaish al-Mahdi, which was a Shia group that was pushing Sunnis out of other places in Baghdad, and they were coming into our area. So we had a lot of displaced civilians. So along with that, we had a large number of IEDs, small arms attacks, RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades. And so you go outside the wire and you're always potentially in contact. When we first started, really, we didn't have a whole lot of attacks on us. We had our first major attack in December. We unfortunately lost our first soldier then, Sergeant Sarasso. But as we got into 2007, violence was increasing across all of Iraq. And we started seeing the sectarian fighting, and it was really frustrating because the battalion I commanded, I had a couple of my units were detached from us. In other words, they're not working for me anymore. So I lost three companies right away, about half of our combat power. And we quickly became responsible for an area that probably had about 300,000 civilians in it.
Wow.
And we're partnered with Iraqi security forces, a number of units, and this sectarian violence has happened. We could see it happening, but we couldn't do anything about it. We just didn't have the manpower. In some cases, the Iraqi units chose not to do anything with it. We would go out and there'd be kidnappings. I remember one time where we would do these big search missions. I shut them off eventually because I didn't think they were effective, but we do a search, what we call a search and a cordon and search. We're looking for the enemy. So we block off these city blocks, the neighborhoods. It's a residential area, and go door to door. And we do this with our Iraqi army partners. And I remember coming back from one of them, and we're driving up this street, and all of a sudden a young boy comes running out there barefoot, and he's screaming at us, yelling, and I pulled over, and we found out that he had just escaped from being kidnapped. And that was not what was happening. Is the terrorists were kidnapping folks for money to raise it to fund their operations. We had IEDs, vehicle-borne IEDs were being built in that area in Almeria. And those IEDs, what they would do is kidnap people, take their vehicle, build it into a bomb, and in one case they tied this man into it, had him drive, and blew it up at an Iraqi army checkpoint. This is the level of violence that we were dealing with. In the meantime, we're getting hit with IEDs and small arms fire. And we did a major operation in March because our area was known to be a hotbed of Al-Qaeda terrorists or Al-Qaeda insurgents. And so we did this big operation. We had another unit come in. And what happens when a large unit comes in, the insurgents just melt into the population, or they go somewhere else. And so I don't think it was very effective. We rounded up some folks. But after that operation, violence it started going through the roof. This was in May of 2007. Actually, started in April. They started going after the Iraqi army, and the Iraqi army quit patrolling. They went into static positions, so the only folks patrolling was us. IEDs started hitting us. Macy blew up underneath an MP patrol. They didn't belong to our unit, but they were in our area, and Katie Sankson was killed. Katie's husband was on my security detachment, and I had to take him to the morgue as we identified her. The next day, another deep buried IED went off in an area near there, killed another soldier. May 4th, another deep buried IED went off, ended up having 3 KIAs from that. May 6th, a sniper killed a sergeant, Staff Sergeant Kiernan. So all this violence is going on. And every time you went outside the wire and into this area, you're at risk. Now, one of the things that we had done prior to this was there was a move to get off the major bases. You have these big forward operating bases. We were on Camp Victory. We actually were in a part of Camp Victory called Fob Liberty. What we did as part of the surge, and we actually did it before the surge started, is we put combat outposts or joint security stations out in the middle of Baghdad, into Baghdad. The reason we did this was to get closer to the population, and we were changing the tactics we were using. My staff came to me and said, "Sir, the guys are scared about doing this," because no one had done it in Baghdad. And so I made the decision, well, the first thing that's going out there is the battalion headquarters. And so we put my headquarters forward into the middle of a neighborhood in Baghdad. We took over a wedding hall. We put another one in another part of the neighborhood, or in the area. The Mansour is a pretty large area. It's 1/9 of Baghdad. We ended up having 3 out there, but I wanted to get one in Almeria because I knew that area was extremely important. And so we had an operation to put this combat outpost in, and this was on the 19th of May. So we had all those casualties coming up to then. As you can imagine, there's a lot of tension in the unit by this time. And I was actually up in Taji, north of Baghdad, while the operation was going on. My operations officer, my executive officer were in charge. And while we were putting this outpost in, a deep buried IED blew up and destroyed a Bradley fighting vehicle. It killed 6 soldiers and 1 interpreter. It's one of those things you'll never forget. So we're up at the Command Sergeant Major, Fidel Gomez, and I were up in Taji. We were actually waiting for a helicopter when this happened, and we weren't supposed to get one till that night. And And Sergeant Major, I was taking a nap. My briefing was over. I needed to get some rest. I'm taking a nap. Sergeant Major knocks on the door, said, "Sir, we just had a Bradley get blown up, and we think we lost everybody." So when that happened, they found us a helicopter, and I'll never forget flying in. It was just before the sun was setting. Smoke is still, I mean, this is probably a couple hours later. Smoke is still coming up from the Bradley. We fly in past it. We landed on the forward operating base, and they had my security detachment ready for me. Now, I had previously banned Humvees from going in there because of the lethality, how dangerous it was. But that was the only thing available. So pucker factor was a little high, and we drove out there and got to the site. And it's one of those things I'll never forget seeing, and never forget smelling. I mean, just the smell of diesel and burnt asphalt, and a Bradley fighting vehicle blown into two, and had just been burned. So it was a significant emotional event for everybody in the unit, and it is to this day. You'll see it on Facebook every year. Guys are reaching out to each other because they need that support.
Absolutely. This is such a pivotal point of your interview, and I feel like everyone is saying I'm echoing. So I'm going to ask Barry to take the lead on this. And how do you regroup and maintain leadership and during a time of great loss and grieving and pain?
Yeah, so I recall being out at the site, and even while we were out there, we had another patrol get hit. So we had more casualties. A couple tanks got hit at another location. So when we were going into the aid station, we finally were able to get the Bradley evacuated and so there's a whole crowd at the aid station. And at least two officers came up to me. I only remember one case, but another one reminded me I did the same to him. But I recall this one, so it's probably very similar. It was one of my officers. He said, "Sir, we need to do something. We need to go in there. We need to do a Fallujah." That was what he meant by that is there was a major operation in Fallujah a couple of years before where it was a very kinetic operation. It may have made sense to do it at that location, but not for what we were doing at that time. And I knew what he meant. He meant, let's go in there. Let's start knocking down doors. Let's tear this place up. Let's go in hard. I was already pretty angry. I was frustrated. I was under stress. And I got very vocal about it, threw in a few choice words, and basically said, you can either flip and do this my way or flip and find yourself another job. So I probably did. What I'm told is I said that twice that night. I don't like losing my cool, but I think in retrospect, it was really important that I did at that point because it set the standard. We are not going to do that. We're not going to go in there. We're not going to take it out on the population because I knew deep down that most of the folks had nothing to do with what happened. There was a group that had something to do with that happening. If we went in heavy, especially with the emotions of the soldiers at that time, we would have had a big problem. Because when you're that emotional, you're going to take it out on somebody. And I knew at that point that is not what we needed to do. So we just didn't do it.
Yeah.
That didn't mean that we did nothing. The first thing we need to do is we need to consolidate, reorganize, take care of the soldiers there. And we're not running away. We're going to continue to patrol. We're going to continue to go out there. After I left the aid station that night, so the aid station is on the main base, I went out to my forward command post. And again, that's out in the middle of Baghdad. And I got my interpreter, and I called one of the local sheikhs and imam, a religious leader. They were very influential in the area, and I called him up and I chewed his butt because I knew he knew was behind it. I said, I need your help. I need you to stand up and work with us. Tell us who's behind this. And of course, nothing that night. However, the people were watching us. We continued to do operations. In fact, we did an operation near that area about a week later. And I remember being on the ground and talking to a woman who had kids, and we're searching her house, and she's in tears, and she's scared. And she knows about the outposts, and the outposts were there so that we could get security in there, so that we could protect people better. And I'll never forget her saying, "Is this going to work?" And she was scared to death that she's talking to this American officer. And I said, "Yeah, I think it will work." But we still didn't have the locals behind us yet. But it was shortly after. The reason I remember that so vividly is, as that mission ended, I got really, really sick. I had the flu. I had it for 3 days.
Wow.
And I was sicker than a dog. I'd get up, I'd go into the command post, and I'd come back to my room, I'd sleep. I was tore up. And on the third day of that, I get a knock on the door, and as always, it's in the middle of the night when these things happen. And my operations officer, my executive officer, and my interpreter are at the door, and they say, "Hey, sir, the sheikh just called us. He wants to talk to you." So I get on the phone with him, and he said, "We're going after Al Qaeda tomorrow. We're going to attack them." I said, "What?" He says, "We're going after Al Qaeda." And I said, "Sheikh, you can't do that. You've got to give me the intelligence. Give it to me, and we'll go after them." And we argued for about 20 minutes. I came to the realization after a while that he was not asking my permission. He was telling me out of courtesy, because we had developed a relationship. I had met him many times. I'd had a lot of tea at his mosque, and he was telling me, "Hey, we're doing this. I trust you enough to tell you this." So I made a split-second decision of, okay, don't go ahead. Don't point your weapons at innocent civilians. Don't attack my soldiers. If you do either one of those, will kill you. And he said, "Okay, I got it." And then I wished him luck.
Just like that.
So we didn't know what was going to happen. So talked to Chip and Chris and my S3, my operations officer, my executive officer. We put together some quick rules of engagement for the team, for the units out in the field. And we told them, "Hey, we don't know what this is going to look like, but things are changing." And so the next day, sure enough, calls start coming in. "Hey, we got all these civilians running around with weapons. What do we do?" The rules of engagement at that time was we could shoot them, but we held our fire. We actually had them wear little white armbands. And then I started getting phone calls from the sheikh. "Hey, we've taken over this part of the town. We've taken over this part of town." But at the end of the day, he thought he had taken over 2/3 of this neighborhood. Now, Almeria think of it as about a mile, maybe a mile and a half by a mile and a half. It's not real big, but it's got about 20 to 30,000 people.
Wow.
So he's calling me saying, "Hey, we've taken this over." And I'm like, "Okay, we're cautiously optimistic." But then the next day, the calls come in. He says, "We're under attack. They're behind us." He called for help. So I ordered a couple platoons to secure their area. It was a couple mosques. We set up a defense. And then I still don't know who's running the show. So the fight was really a platoon level company fight. It's a big deal for a battalion commander to go out there and and legitimize this. So we're trying to figure out, okay, when's the right time that I go? I mean, I'm ready to jump out there, but I don't want to legitimize something that we don't want to arm a militia that is not under our control. So finally you get a call from another sheikh. So this one's a little bit more influential. And he calls me and says, I got someone for you to meet. And that was what I was looking for. And I said, okay, I'll meet him at this mosque. And I meet this guy, and he's exhausted. He's been fighting for 2-3 days. The place is a mess. You could see that there was a huge fight there. And he started making demands of me that I couldn't agree to. Just let me take over Almeria. I got it. Just support me with arms, ammunition. We'll take care of it. And I said, that's not going to happen. I told him to get some sleep and I'd be back the next day. And so he got some rest. The area was secured by that time. And I went back out the next day, and I had probably one of the most important meetings of my life. So I got to kind of set the stage for this. So it's Baghdad. It's hot. It's always hot in Baghdad, except in the winter. And so I meet at this mosque, and we're meeting at they usually have like a room where they just meet people, and there's couches and you drink tea. So we're in here drinking tea, and then the generator goes out, and it's kind of dark. And so we walk about a block away to a house. We hadn't previously secured it. I don't know who's there, but it had light. So I got a security detachment with me. But then I go into this room with my intel officer, Captain Pete Saluski. I had one sergeant in there providing security, and then the sergeant major took the rest of our security detachment and surrounded the building. Meanwhile, I'm in this room with about 12 to 15 guys armed like every terrorist you've ever seen in your life. And we had a conversation, and we started negotiating. And through that negotiation, this was about 2 to 3 hours. We're trying to figure out, one, do we trust each other? And if we do, how do we make this work? And they actually brought in someone from outside the area as their advisor. It was another Iraqi. Well, I knew about him because our sister battalion, 2nd Battalion, 5th Cavalry, was working with him over in Abu Ghraib. And so we're vetting people behind the scenes. They're doing the same thing. And so I knew this guy, Abu Azam. I knew who he was. I knew his reputation. So what we're doing is we're starting to build trust. So I'm building trust because I'm kind of vetting them through our partner battalion. I'm vetting them through this other sheikh. And then we're talking, and we're trying to find out what's our common interest. And it's to get Al-Qaeda out of Almeria. So we planned the first operation that night, at least the start of it. He said he had this area where there's 5 insurgents that he wanted to go after, 5 targets. And I said, okay, I'll give you one of my companies. I gave him a tank company as an outer cordon. Do it for 2 reasons. 1, I wanted to keep my eyes on them, and 2, the tanks have very good optics and can provide him a lot of support. We can see everything at night. So the company commander came back after that operation, and he was just grinning from ear to ear. Sir, you would not believe how good this infantry is. They went in, they got every target, tactically questioned them, released 3, turned 2 over to us, which was the rule I had. You had to turn over anybody you captured to us. They didn't fire a shot. We couldn't have done that. We could not have done that. So that was the start of building confidence on my end. They will tell us the start of feeling confidence on their end is when we're shooting in the same direction.
Do I have the right pick?
Yep, that is him. That is Abu Abid.
Oh, wow.
And again, at first we didn't trust each other, but over time we definitely did. And he's a friend today. We stay in touch.
Oh, that's so great.
Yep. That was last year, about this time last year. So he's up in Canada now.
Oh, wow. Good for him.
There needs to be a movie on this guy.
Yeah, I bet.
He had to flee Iraq because the Iraqi government went after him. The Al Qaeda went after him. He fled Iraq, went to first Jordan, then he went to he fled. He was attacked by Al Qaeda in Jordan, so he fled to Syria, another garden spot. And then eventually he smuggled himself and his family up to Sweden. He got political asylum, converted to Christianity. Wife left him, kids are there with him. Remarries, emigrates to Canada, and that's where he is today. But the story isn't over for him any more than it is for us. His daughter was murdered in Sweden by an Al Qaeda operative.
Oh my God! Wow.
A couple of years ago.
Oh my God! In Sweden.
In Sweden.
Wow! Oh my God!
They hunted
so
her down.
You know, in many ways, though. What's that?
They came after her
in Sweden. I mean, you would think that would
Yep.
be a safe. She would have
Yeah.
been safe.
So.
Scary.
Yeah, like anywhere else, there's immigrants and different groups, and within the Iraqi community that's outside in Sweden, somehow they managed to get close to her, and she was supposed to be joining him in Canada a couple weeks later, and I remember her. She was like a 4-year-old girl when we were there, and it's he's had a tough life, and he's done a lot. We could not have done what we did in Iraq if it was not for that man.
Barry, there are a lot of comments on here. Can you just read a few?
On the right there?
Yeah,
Hold
can
on.
you see them?
Let's see. Hold on. Sorry. Because I was looking at the right here. Hold on. So, Pam just said, "I'm so sorry. Prayers for their families and friends. My heart goes out to all of you. I'm so sorry." That's the only one I see on your page. James Code. Good evening, Barry and Lisa and Mr. Kuehl. Heartbreaking. James said, "Thank you for your service, sir." As we all say. That's I mean.
Appreciate. We always appreciate the support.
The Americans should know about these people who they don't know about, who's helped you guys, helped American soldiers too, and they're heroes like you guys are, so that their names need to be known also. So it's so important that you tell that story, about yourself, about your men, and about this gentleman that just people don't know about it, but they should. It's amazing what he sacrificed for our country. He's not even an American.
Yeah, he sacrificed everything.
God bless him for sure. So yeah, then there should be a movie about him for sure. Yeah.
On the topic of movies and storytelling, your writing, Dale, how has that helped you process everything you've been through?
Yeah, so I did write. I've written a couple things more formally. As you saw the Small Wars Journal article, I wrote something for Military Review, and then I actually wrote a master's thesis on the larger picture of all this. But the first article I wrote, it was on my assignment after I left command. I became a senior trainer at what's known as the National Training Center. So what we do is we take a cadre, like I was a former battalion commander, and I got a structure underneath me to fall in on a battalion. So I'm a coach for a battalion commander. I have a staff that coaches the staff. I have captains that coach the captains, and on down. So I was doing that for about a year, and I was actually on a break. Ellen, my wife, and I went to Big Bear. We're taking a long weekend, and she got ill, and so I'm stuck in this cabin, and then I start getting, that's Ellen. I start a classmate of mine, I'll shout out his name, is John Noggle, because he was a very influential in counterinsurgency and wrote probably one of the best books about counterinsurgency, and it came out actually before the war. John's a really smart guy. He was a Rhodes Scholar and got a PhD from Oxford as well. And anyway, he sends me an email, say, hey, there's some discussion going on in this closed the loop blog. Just certain folks are allowed in and certain are not, and I was not. But he starts telling me, hey, this is what they're saying. And basically what they said is we weren't doing anything different than anybody else did prior to the surge. And so there's particularly at that time within the Army, there was a big disagreement of how should we be doing things in Iraq. General Petraeus came in and changed the strategy. There was an argument made by folks who were there before that you haven't changed anything. You just change your tactics and there's no change in strategy. I would completely disagree with them, because we did change a lot. And it wasn't just about more soldiers in there. But there was a critique going on. We just paid these guys off. They were doing what we were doing, but we went to a level of complexity that is really hard to describe. We got into the fabric of the community. We got off the base. We have these 4 patrol bases. I went to so many meetings. I got to know the people. I was a political player is the way I looked at it. It was armed politics. We changed the focus, that's what changing strategy is. You change the focus. We changed the focus from transitioning to the Iraqi army to protect the population. When you change the focus like that, that's a change in strategy. And so we changed the tactics to go along with that. Anyway, I'm getting feedback from John saying, you got to answer this. And he laid it out for me. And then somebody else, a reporter, starts giving me the same thing because she's in on this. And so I'm getting all this feedback and I'm trying to get into this blog and I'm not getting let in. I'm getting ticked off and I got nothing to do. So that's how I wrote that first article. So it's a little bit raw, a little technical,
but it
a lot of
must have
inside
been
base.
a
What's
good
that?
release for you emotionally.
It was. It definitely was. And then it became, part of the discussion on it. There was a lot of back and forth going on. And I think that's healthy. It's good to have disagreements. And then out of that's when I wrote the next article for Military Review. And this is a bit technical on the military side, but what I did is there was a counterinsurgency theorist. He's a French guy named David Galula, and he actually wrote this as, I think, a master's thesis or something, but it is kind of the basis of population-centric counterinsurgency, which is what we were doing. And so I never, honestly, I didn't read them until I came back. The counterinsurgency manual wasn't written before I deployed. So we were learning as we were going on. It was actually published while we were there. So we were picking stuff up. There was a really good counterinsurgency school, Kuehl Academy, that was put there. General Casey actually put that in place, and it was really, really good. So I took a lot of notes. I learned a lot, and we started applying it. And then when I came back and read Galula, what I tried to do is, hey, is he still relevant? Because he was writing in a time in the 1960s where everything was like a communist insurgency or something like that. And we're not in that. We're in something different. Mm-hmm. But and I won't go into the details of it, but basically what I said is he's got something there that is still relevant to us today. And it's centered on the population. The insurgent is trying to control the population, and we're trying to get influence over the operation. And you'll often hear hearts and minds. I don't really focus on that. I want trust. I wanted the civilians, the people of Amaria and the parts of Baghdad I had, to trust us and the Iraqi government more than they trusted the insurgents. If we could get to that, then maybe we can get security, get the economy going, getting a political system running. And so that's what we were trying to do.
And with
And I wrote that.
And all this is during a time when your soldiers are still grieving.
Oh, definitely. So this was all within a year. And so I think in many ways I had an advantage on how to deal with the trauma that we had. And me personally, I had to compartmentalize. I had a mission. As a commander, you can't focus on what happened. You have to learn from what happened, and you got to focus on continuing the mission. So I would compartmentalize. I'm mission focused. What I would do while we were downrange is one of the ways I would cope is we always had a memorial ceremony for the soldiers we lost. Well, I would take that as an opportunity to reflect, because I had a speaking part in each one of those, and I would reflect. I'd learn as much about the soldier as I could in a short period of time. I would close my door, for an hour and a half, and I would write what I was going to say. And I had, one, I wanted to honor the soldier we lost, but two, I had a message I needed to get to our soldiers, and that was an opportunity to do that. Those ceremonies are so moving. Just to kind of describe it, you'll have friends of the soldier talk. You'll usually have a lieutenant or a captain talk. I will talk as a battalion commander, and the chaplain will have a message. And depending upon the soldier, is whether it's religious or not. And then when it's over, every soldier, you're going to have the picture of the soldier or soldiers. You're going to have boots. You're going to have the rifle with the bayonet stuck in the ground. And that's going to be at the front by the altar. And when that ceremony ends, every soldier will go up there and pay the respects of the salute. Mm-hmm. Every one of them. And I made it in the Sergeant Major and I, and every commander does this. It's not something special that I did. Every commander does this. But as the soldiers are leaving, they got to pass by me. And that was an opportunity for me to look them in the eye and shake their hand. Because I want them to know I cared.
Wow.
Of course.
Yeah.
Those are so important. Because they're out there the next day and they're doing the mission. They took a hell of a lot more risks than I did. And I knew that. And I wanted them to know that I got you. I understand it. I understand what you're going through. So that was a way I wrote while we were downrange. Since that time, it's really moving again on our unit's Facebook page. You will see guys start reaching out to each other in May. And it gets things stirring, and I can't just sit down and write. I don't feel like I'm a really good writer. I worry about it. But there's a couple times where I've written something based off of that I've posted there it helps me. It helps me get through, remembering all of that. So I really like how you approach things. I think it makes, for me, it speaks. The writing.
Absolutely. Writing is healing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the folks. Can you talk a little bit about 1-5 Foundation?
Yes.
And Nicole Amelia Media.
Yeah, so 1-5 Foundation, Emilio Media, are working together. So it was a little over 2 years ago. One of our lieutenants approached me. He has set up he's the commissioner of the Military Basketball Association, and he was one of our lieutenants, and Michael Myers, and he got out as a major, and he while he was still in the Army, he started this nonprofit called the Military Basketball Association. Again, it's focused on raising money for veterans and healing. And Nicole approached him and said, we need to do a documentary on you, because what he would tell her is that time in Baghdad, that time in Almeria was foundational for his life, and that is driving him to do what he does today. So Nicole approached him, and what he told her was, there's a much bigger story than me. You need to talk to my battalion commander. So Nicole reached out to me, and Nicole Emilio, and she's trying to convince me to do this documentary, and I'm a bit hesitant. I did not want to do it, but she convinced me to at least think about it, and I called back to my old executive officer, Chris Rogers, and I called Chip Daniels. I called them each separately. Chip was my operations officer. I asked them each 2 questions. First question is, do we have a story? And the second question is, do we need to tell it? And it was, both of them said yes to both. And so that's when I told Nicole, yep, we'll do it. And then we had some discussions about how do we do this. So Nicole is really good about it's called Resilience Warriors Rise. And initially it was going to be about resilience when folks came back home. But what I asked Nicole to really consider is, let's talk about the resilience downrange. Because how does a unit take that trauma where we have casualty after casualty after casualty, and then May 19th, and I'm not even talking the numbers of wounded we had, and how do they keep doing the mission? And then when the commander makes a wild decision to start working with folks who may have been insurgents in the past, and they did what I asked them to do, that's resilience.
Absolutely.
They continued the mission. So I think that's an important part of the story. You got to understand what they went through downrange to understand the resilience when they've come back home. And we really haven't talked about it yet, but we were I think we were probably one of the most violent places in Iraq during the most violent month, which was May of 2007. We had 14 KIAs in that area. There was a total of, I think, about 130 KIAs during that month. So about 10% of them were ours.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
And so most violent place in Iraq. The last attack that I recall, it will actually be the 19th anniversary tomorrow, August 7th, when we lost Donald Young. He was a Bradley driver. After that, I don't think we had another attack on us from August 8th until we left in January. Not one. We did some things that I would not have believed it when we got there. We went to an Iraqi wedding. I'm sitting in the middle of Baghdad, drinking tea, smoking a cigar, taking my gear off. I blessed the couple. They asked me to bless this couple at a Muslim wedding. I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. He says, that's okay. We get it. We organized a protest against ourselves. It goes back to the Ministry of Education wasn't going to count the test scores of the young men in the area. So the local sheikh says, hey, we want to do a protest. And I said, sure, by all means, let's have a protest. So they gave the demands to me, and we set up the whole security of the thing. But it was important for them. That's the political process. That's what we wanted. when we left, and I'll never forget this site. There was a place in Almeria called Body Drop Field, and it was called that because bodies would just be dropped there all the time. Sometimes there'd be IEDs in them.
Wow.
When we left, and this is the last image I saw of Almeria, it was a playground, and there had to be 35 to 50 kids on there. That it was the most fulfilling thing to feel. And so my admiration of the soldiers of 1-5 Cav, I just can't describe it, because I knew what they went through. I knew what I asked them to do. I knew it was hard. And they didn't understand it all, but they did it anyway.
Powerful. Michael Myers says, that's my battalion commander.
Oh, wow. Nice.
David Toon is on. Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Tina Savage. There's so many people on. I apologize. We tried to resolve it about 20 minutes before we went live. That image, children on a playground.
That's amazing.
Beautiful and powerful through the trust. The sacrifice.
I think your men are blessed that they had you as a leader. I mean, I think that's so important, and just probably saved so many lives, just with your great leadership. So
well, I was truly blessed to have a great team.
Sure.
My majors were, I could not, Chris and Chip, Command Sergeant Major kept me kind of grounded. I had non-commissioned officers. Yep, that's what it looked like when we started with these guys. The non-commissioned officers and the junior officers, they just did amazing things. So we are working on a docuseries. Yep, that's Chris and Chip. We're working on docuseries. We've gotten 2 episodes complete. We're working on a 3rd. I'm actually flying tomorrow morning for a little bit more filming. So we're going to talk about the story. It's called Resilience Warriors Rise. The intent is 5 episodes. It'll work our way through our deployment, but then the 5th episode is, how do our veterans continue to be resilient? And it's different for everybody. What we want to do is show positive stories. One of the challenges we have in our unit is we've had, we think, at least 22 suicides since we've been back. And that's way too many. So our goal in the 1-5 Cav Foundation is to eliminate veteran suicide. One of the ways we believe we can do that is reconnect guys back together, but also find ways to get our guys to programs. So what we're doing with the 1-5 Cav Foundation is raising the funds so that we can do the docuseries. And then anything else we raise, either through, if the docuseries takes off and we get some revenue, of course, we want to make sure Nicole gets paid and she does well. But anything we get is going to go to our soldiers, and hopefully our foundation will continue to grow even after that. And we would like to get other units to do the same thing.
Absolutely. How can we help?
Yeah.
Donations.
Well,
don't.
Yes, definitely. Because we got enough now. I think we're still looking for a little bit more to get episode 3 done. It costs about, I don't know, $35,000 per episode to do. So we're still trying to raise funds for that. We've also done a couple screenings, and we're going to be at the Richmond International Film Festival later in September. So if anybody wants to see episode 1, it will be screened there. We're working on a screening in North Carolina. I don't want to give too much on that yet because it's not a done deal, but I'm hoping we get that in. That would be in December. And if there's anyone else that would like to host us, I'll get with the team and we'll figure out how we can do that. But we are looking for venues to raise funds so that we can get this publish, and then we're honestly we're looking for a streaming platform, and we can get it out there and hopefully generate some revenue for what we're doing.
That's
It deserves to be out there.
I'm dying to see that. That is so important for that to get out there. Definitely keep. I know we're getting close to our end here. We could listen to your stories for hours probably, but we want to hear when the documentary is complete and when we're going to be able to see it. And we're happy to post anything to help you. Send us links that we can post and try to help you out.
Certainly.
And
Yeah,
happy
you-
back again without echo.
Yes.
So there are some trailers on the website, so you can kind of see the quality and see who's in it. You'll see it's not. What's really cool about this is it's not just me. We've got folks from General Petraeus all the way down to soldiers on the ground,
Oh, wow.
and that's what really makes it powerful.
Right.
And we got Abu Abid. We've interviewed him as well, so you're going to get an Iraqi perspective, which
Good.
really makes it special.
Oh, this is going to be great. So glad you're doing that.
Absolutely.
Americans must know your story. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share about the 1.5 calf.
Yeah, it was our
Thank
honor.
you, Dale.
It was
We learned so much.
yes,
too.
fascinating, incredible stories. Incredible stories.
Stay on.
Stay on.
There any last message you want to give our audience,
audience,
Dale,
Um,
before Barry wraps it up?
Yeah, well, again, go visit our site. When you see a veteran, it's okay not to know what to say. I don't mind when you say thank you for your service, but ask them how they're doing,
Yeah, that's great.
and get to know them. Ask their story, and maybe they'll tell you, maybe they won't, but ask their story.
That's great. Great advice. I love that because I always feel I'm always saying the same. Thank you for service. As sincere as I mean it, I don't want it to come off as hollow or whatever. So that's great advice too to add that to thank you for your service because that is important.
Yep.
That's great advice, Dale. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You were amazing. And should we
Thanks,
tell them
guys.
about-
Thanks for the opportunity.
Should we tell them about
Yes.
next
And-
week's guest too?
Hang on, don't go anywhere, Dale.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Go ahead, Barry.
yeah, so Dale, you were amazing. Thank you. And next week, we're really honored to have another great guest too, who's a friend of mine, Mark Oz Geis from everybody knows from the film 13 Hours. He's one of the heroes of Benghazi, and he's an amazing guy. He's nice enough to join us next week and talk about his amazing story too. That there's so many amazing stories, so many heroes out there that we have to feature, and we're proud to have all you guys on. So we're looking forward to that also.
We'll see everyone next Thursday. Nicole, keep documenting. You're doing great work. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Have a good night. We'll see you Thursday.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.